next speaker is Jim Herbert. Jim will be working on his fourth project in the Humorously Speaking Advanced Manual. The purpose of his project is to start with a self-deprecating joke and keep us using a similar theme of jokes throughout the speech. Tonight, Jim will talk about childhood fears, the current political climate, and a potpourri of other things in his speech titled, My Two Greatest Fears. If you want to know what they are, then I suggest you put your hands together and help me welcome Jim Herbert to the stage.
I'd imagine you've all heard this phrase, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. Most of you have heard this phrase, correct? Safe to say? I have another phrase that has a little different twist on it, and I find myself saying it a lot these days. In times of great change makers emerge. And like it or not, my friends, our Commander-in-Chief, President Trump, is a great change maker. Now, I've found recently in the last week that I have something in common with our President, Donald Trump, very much in common. And I know what you're all thinking I might say here. You might think I'm going to say, we all have great hair. You've seen this photo surfed around the internet. You haven't seen this one, though. That's me with great hair. Circa 1990, living in Jamaica on sabbatical for a little while. No, the truth is what Donald Trump and I have in common is one of our childhood fears. We were both terribly afraid of the dark when we were kids. And it was one of my greatest childhood fears. When I was young, in fact, I was so afraid of the dark that I would not get out of bed in the middle of the night for anything at all. If I had to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, I just held it. It worked most of the time. Fortunately, I'm an only child and I didn't sleep in a top bunk, so it was safe. If I didn't have a drink of water in the middle of the night and I needed one, I'd just go bone dry till the end of the night. And in the greatest tragedy of all, if one of my stuffed animals fell off the bed, I pretty much just gave them up for dead. Because there was no way I was going to reach down and risk losing a limb to the creature under the bed for the stuffed animal overboard emergency. Good news, though. I had a surplus of stuffed animals when I was a kid. In fact, this one in the middle up here, my teddy bear, has been to a meeting here. If you were here once when I gave the two teddy bears speech, you probably know him. Now, as much as I was afraid of the dark when I was a kid, I did actually have two fears that were greater than that. And these were two things that I was absolutely terrified of. Want to know what they were?
Yeah.
Thank you. So I lived in the Midwest, in what was at that point a fairly flat, open, rural area, and I hated the months of April and May. Anybody know where I'm going here? Tornadoes. So my house actually got hit by a tornado when I was a kid, when I was 9 years old. It knocked out the garage foundation. There were no other injuries, nothing else got ruined in the house, but it was really freaking scary. And then, on the eve of my wedding to Christiana, just about 4 years ago, our wedding site got hit by a tornado. I think I'm not superstitious or anything, or I might have tucked and ran. My other greatest fear when I was a child, the other terror that I had, did not come from the skies. It came from the sea. So in 1975, I turned 11 years old, and I did, in fact, live in the Midwest. But every summer, we'd go visit my grandparents on the East Coast, and we'd head out to the beaches of Long Island. Anybody remember what movie came out in the summer of 1975? Yeah, that's it. Jaws. Now, Jaws was enough to keep me out of the ocean for many years to come. In fact, I think it kept me out of the pool at night for at least 5 or 6 years because that freaked me out too. So here I am, a young child, terrified of tornadoes, terrified of sharks. Imagine my horror as an adult when I realized this was a thing. I've barely gotten over it. How many of you have actually seen the movie Sharknado? Who would actually admit to having seen the movie Sharknado? It's fantastic, isn't it? So, in case you haven't seen it, let's see if this works. I've got a little clip embedded here. I don't know if we get sound. Let's find out. Oh, I don't think we get sound. I'm going to have to narrate. So this is like the Sharknado scene, and this is the cast of the movie right here, and they're trying to figure out what they can do next. This guy's Finn in the middle. Finn is the lead actor. So they find this helicopter, and he says, I don't know if this thing will fly. Where are we going to go? We have to get away from the sharks. Look at how they're holding like tire irons and giant wrenches. This is the part I love the most. They decide this thing can fly, and at this moment he just throws down the wrench and he says, we're not just going to wait here until sharks rain down from the sky on us again. It's absolutely fantastic. And I wish you actually got the sound there, but this is the crew. These are the people that are going to save the world from sharknadoes. And this is the giant crescent wrench which is somehow going to save the world. It's fantastic stuff. So, many of you may be out there thinking, this might be a little far-fetched. This probably couldn't actually happen, right? Who thinks that sharknadoes are fake, that they couldn't actually happen? I'd say the majority of you, yeah. So some of you actually didn't raise your hand, so that's encouraging to me that you think it's possible. I sort of say it's a mostly unanimous decision that sharknadoes couldn't actually happen. But let's take your brain back to October of last year. Who else in this room thought that it was an impossibility that Donald Trump would be elected our president right around the time the audio clips came out about the way he felt his celebrity status allowed him to sexually assault women and grab them by the... Anybody think that that was an impossibility last October? Boy, I sure did. So that just goes to show you that pretty much anything in this universe can happen, even this. Sharknado. It could actually happen. Now you may also be out there wondering, how in the world is Jim going to tie a cogent link between his wedding, Sharknado, the current political climate, stuffed animals, and all that other stuff? Anybody wondering that? Jim, you're probably wondering that, right? We've had these conversations before.
I have faith in you.
You have faith in me. Love you for it, my brother. And here's what it's all about. Here's where the common theme is. So, when people get scared about something, when things happen that we label as bad, where fear exists, people bond together. Sometimes with giant tire irons and crescent wrenches to save the world. And that's what the beautiful thing is about it. And you see it happening all the time. So my wedding got hit by a tornado. What you don't know about my wedding is a week before my wedding, my wife's grandmother, who was the single most important person in the world to her, had a heart attack. And so the Wednesday before my wedding, we drove down to Pekin, and we took her off of life support so she could pass before our wedding, and she wasn't there. And then the night before the wedding, the tornado hit our very outdoor wedding, ruined the tent, broke all the plates, all the chairs, and all the dishes. But you know what? On our wedding day, none of that mattered. Because our family and our friends all bonded together. We rebuilt the site. We had this most amazing experience. Probably more amazing than we would have had if none of that stuff had happened. And in a ridiculous way, Finn and the gang in Sharknado were doing the same thing. They were bonding together in that moment of fear. And you know where else it's happening? Right now on this planet. Right here in this country. To me, what's more scary? A racist that lives behind the scenes, or a racist that's comfortable enough to come out and do racist things so we can see it in the light? What's more terrifying? A misogynist or someone with a sense of entitlement that doesn't show it to you? Or someone who brings it out and lets everybody see it so you can say, that's not good, we shouldn't do that, right? That's what's exciting about what's happening right now in this day and age. So I say, my friends, it's time to grab your tire irons. It's time to grab your giant wrenches, because it's not just time to make America great again, it's time to make the planet well again. Madam Toastmaster.